the beginning, I was part of an organization called MENG, which is Marketing Executives Networking Group. And they had about 13 chapters around the country. And those chapters are always putting on monthly or quarterly programs. And what do they need for those programs, Brandon?
Speakers, education.
Speakers, right? So and if you just look at the website, you know the cadence of when they do their meetings. And so I probably in my first year spoke at 9 of the 13 chapters. And then when I moved here to North Carolina, we're blessed to have one of the most successful American Marketing Association chapters here in the country. And I joined and I became part of the board. And it turns out that there's about 75 chapters throughout the country. And again, that's my people. I've spoken at 70 of the 75. And the vast majority are not paid speaking engagements. But they're opportunities to get in front of people that can potentially hire me.
What is, would you say, the secret to your speaking business success in such a short amount of time?
I try to kind of eat my own dog food. And for the clients I have, to provide a great experience for them, so I become a referable speaker. I find about 70% of the opportunities that I get are from direct referrals. And so this is a word of mouth business. You could create the greatest speaking reel in the history of the world. Nothing replaces Brandon was in the audience when Stan did a presentation and recommends me to a friend or a colleague that's looking for a speaker. I do paid professional speaking engagements, which means I spend the time to understand the audience. I do interviews in advance. I tailor my presentation to that industry and down to that organization or association. I try to be easy to work with. I show up early. I stay as long as I can because I know that's the greatest marketing that I do is when I'm on site at an event. And then simply in the beginning, it was trying to hustle and figure out where my message was relevant and where my people were. And when you're willing to hustle and you provide a good experience, you're bound to have success as a speaker.
Well, let's talk about that. You say where your people were. What was that for you in the beginning?
My first book was about the customer and how customer experience was kind of the new battleground in marketing. And that was my purpose, to get people to think differently about marketing. Because most people, when they think marketing, are not thinking about the customer. Who do you think they're thinking about, Brandon, when you say marketing?
I don't know, themselves?
Well, marketing has always been typically about the prospect, right? Generating awareness, get on people's radar, get them interested, managing them through the decision process, right? Getting them hopefully to convert and become customers. Marketing was never about the customer. Yet, if you ask any business owner, what's the most successful marketing that you do? And they all say what? Word of mouth, referral. In fact, second, that's like 86% of business owners say that. You know who comes in second? Google at 59%. So here's the thing. You go, well, if that's your most successful form of marketing is referral and word of mouth, what is your referral and word of mouth strategy? What percentage of businesses do you think have a referral and word of mouth strategy?
It's like none. Yeah, exactly. 1%.
1%. You're telling me the most successful form of marketing that you do, beyond anything that you pay for, you don't have a strategy for. And so my calling, especially in the beginning, was to get people to think differently about their most valuable resource, right? Which is their current customers. And to get them to think about ways that they could go above and beyond the transaction, right? So much of business is about transactional. And I came across this word called lagniappe. and the word lagniappe comes from New Orleans. Lagniappe is this idea of doing a little more to go above and beyond the transaction to honor the relationship that you have with a customer. And it's that little something extra that you do to be kind of sticky and rememberable for your customers and make you referable. And here's the thing that I think most people miss about your current customers is that if you work hard to create a new customer, traditionally, they are nowhere near as valuable to you if they've been referred to you by a current customer, right? Research shows that if I've been referred to work with you, Brandon, over my lifetime, I spend up to twice the amount of money with you. I stay longer, I spend more. And because I've been referred myself, I'll refer up to twice the amount of people than somebody that you traditionally acquire. And yeah, so that was the focus. And again, everything I do in terms of trying to create an experience comes back to that.
And just 1 second before we go on to the rest of the show, if you like what you are hearing, please make sure to hit that subscribe button or the like button or both. It helps the show grow and it shows our show to more people, helps us grow, helps us stick around. Thank you for doing it in advance. Now back to the show.
Yeah, and I think your philosophies on this shine through in your keynotes and in your books, and they can glean that. And I think it's no better than when you're in person. When you're trying to apply that, though, how did you go about finding those first few, 10 speaking gigs or whatever else? Were you just networking in your local community? Were you reaching out to corporations? I want to hear the steps of the process, because the philosophies they can nail down.
Yeah. So again, I needed to find where are my people, and I was a marketer. I had spent over 2 decades working in marketing. I thought I had something that was lacking and that people needed to hear. And my purpose was to get people to think at least as much about the customer than they did about the prospect. To me, victory would be if 51% of what you're thinking about in marketing was about the experience that you created for your current customer. That to me would be a win. So to me, I went in the beginning, I was part of an organization called MENG, which is Marketing Executives Networking Group. And they had about 13 chapters around the country. And those chapters are always putting on monthly or quarterly programs. And what do they need for those programs, Brandon?
Speakers, education.
Speakers, right? So if you just look at the website, the cadence of when they do their meetings. And so I probably in my first year leading into making the jump, I probably spoke at 9 of the 13 chapters. And then when I moved here to North Carolina, because again, I was a marketer, I did a lot of networking and went to a lot of events in the beginning, trying to find out again where my people were. And we have, we're blessed to have one of the most successful AMA chapters, American Marketing Association chapters here in the country. And I joined and I became part of the board. And it turns out that there's about 75 chapters throughout the country. And again, that's my people. I've spoken at 70 of the 75. And not all, they're not, vast majority are not paid speaking engagements. But there are opportunities to get in front of people that can potentially hire me, right? And so I just did a lot of hustling. And here's the thing, when you start to do a good job for a couple of chapters, what happens?
They refer you to other chapters.
The word spreads, right?
Yeah. And
especially if you're doing it pro bono, or maybe you're just doing it, to cover your travel and expenses, there's a lot of value that you're creating. And so it's fine to ask the organizer, hey, if I do a great job, can you reach out to 2 or 3 other people and refer me, and ask for the referral, right? You don't want them to do it if it's not genuine. But that was the way that I kind of did it at the beginning. The other thing I did was I got referred to an organization called the ANA. which is the Association of National Advertisers. Again, marketers, my people, and they happen to have like a school of marketing, training, and development. Back in 2014, so I was just a year plus in, I co-created a course, like a half-day workshop, and then they have member organizations, and I probably do, on average, one workshop a month or every other month. And that was another way to get, 6 to 10 to, some years it could be 15 different engagements. Yeah. And so in the beginning, it's just a lot of hustle.
Yeah.
Because there's no word of mouth for you.
Well, yeah. And I'm trying to imagine, because those, it's 3 different organizations. So I can imagine being a member in your local organization, but then the confidence to be like, well, then I did this one. Should I reach out to the chapter that's, a state away? Is it worth the travel to go get this speaking engagement? Did that take you a while to realize? Like, was the first year pretty light on speaking engagements, and then suddenly it just clicked and you started traveling across the country?
So I realized if I was going to be a speaker, I had to do one thing: speakers speak. And I remember my first 3 years, I created like a monthly newsletter that I would send. I had a couple thousand people that were part of my list. And every year, every month, when I sent that letter out, it was, where am I going to be the following month? And to me, that was a great accountability thing.
Mm-hmm.
To want to make sure that I was writing 4 to 6 to 8 events on there, because what do speakers do?
Speak.
They speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, man, and very quickly you start to understand, when the busy times are versus the peaks and the shoulders. And when you're on the shoulder, and this happens to be, summer tends to be a shoulder. At least that's in my experience, because people are on vacation, they're not doing corporate events, associations kind of stay away from the summer, that you need to manufacture stuff during those times. Same thing in December and January. And to me, it was an easy sell if you've already done a great job for a number of chapters to say, look, I've done Richmond, I've done Baltimore, I've done DC, I've done Charlotte. You're a known commodity. Why wouldn't somebody want to fit you into their schedule?
Brands on Brands.